welcome back. And guess what? We're here at reInvent 2019, and today we're going to talk about DeepRacer, so we're really excited. Lots of cool stuff. My name is Alejandra. I work here in developer relations, and why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves too?
Yeah, my name is Brian Townsend. I'm a software manager on the DeepRacer product.
My name's Lisa Tovar. I'm a chief of staff for Capital One.
Hi, I'm Eva Pagneux. I'm a product manager for the DeepRacer team.
And I'm Memo Doring. I'm also a technical evangelist on the developer relations team. Thank you so much for everyone for being here and sharing your time with us.
Thank you. So before we go into this awesome new feature that you're excited to share, how about we go a little bit backward, and can you tell us first, what is DeepRacer?
Yeah, DeepRacer is a 1/18th scale model racing car, that enables all developers of all skill levels to get rolling with machine learning, as it's driven by reinforcement learning. So it makes it accessible to everyone to deploy a model either to the car or in the simulator and race in the DeepRacer League.
Awesome. So what is it that you're launching today?
Our customers have been asking us for the last year since reInvent launch in 2018 to provide more challenges and more ways to race and win. So we're now launching DeepRacer Evo, a brand new car, adding sensors to expand its capabilities with a stereo camera and LiDAR sensor.
So a stereo camera that's actually two different hardware cameras that we're using together on this car, right? So it's twice as many cameras as before?
Exactly. So it's an additional front-facing camera and a LiDAR.
Awesome. And LiDAR is this little guy that's spinning on the top.
Exactly. So you'll see the two front-facing cameras here and the LiDAR spinning.
And the LiDAR is also a sensor, isn't it? The LiDAR is a sensor.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's actually a laser beam. So as this thing spins, it's shooting a laser out, and it can determine how far from the car different objects are.
Object detection. Ooh, cool stuff.
Exactly.
Exactly. Those two new sensors enable the car to be aware of the depth of objects in front of them and behind them in order to detect them and avoid them.
Awesome.
We're also launching a new feature in the AWS DeepRacer console, enabling anyone to create their own DeepRacer League, virtual private races, so anybody would be able to just create a race and invite their friends or coworker to have fun.
So I know that last year, or this year, we had the DeepRacer League, people were racing everywhere, and we will be expanding in 2020, right?
Exactly. Even more exciting ways to win and to be challenged. We're introducing 5 new countries in the summit circuit, and we're also adding 18 new virtual races to the DeepRacer League so that we can support obstacle avoidance and head-to-head racing in the league.
So head-to-head racing means multiple cars, same track, you're actually racing against someone, not just like a race for time, correct?
Exactly. So in 2019 during the league, we had what we call time trial, which is basically you are on your own around the racetrack to beat your own time. Whereas here with head-to-head racing and obstacle avoidance, and specifically head-to-head racing, you'll have another car racing against you with a reinforcement learning model loaded on it.
That's awesome.
And so what about people that can't be in person for these races? Can anybody join virtually?
Absolutely. The DeepRacer League is a summit circuit where you can meet us at a series of 30 summits in 2020. But you can also race every month in the 3 formats: time trial, object avoidance, and head-to-head racing every month. So anybody can join from anywhere at any time virtually.
And how do the object avoidance races work?
You virtually or
Yeah.
physically?
Either.
Both?
Yeah.
You'll have objects placed, for example, in the console, and Brian will go through this in further details, but you'll have objects placed on the track, and you'll have to train a model that can actually avoid those cars
Fantastic.
in the shortest time possible.
Looking forward to that demo.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, I know that everybody wants to get into machine learning, but it's also a harder topic, right? So who is DeepRacer for? Can anybody use it?
Everybody can use it. Anybody interested in starting the machine learning journey and learn new skills to solve complex problems, from any background, any skill level can get their hands on with DeepRacer and get started with machine learning. It's actually for individuals and companies alike. So we've had racers from anywhere in the world. They're still competing today at the MGM. But we'll also have companies getting involved with DeepRacer to upskill their workforce. For example, Capital One has been very involved with DeepRacer, but we've also had other customers that have run leagues across several countries, more than 30 locations, to educate their teams.
So, Lisa, can you tell us a little about your experience at Capital One with DeepRacer?
Yeah, absolutely. To Ava's point, it's a great program that allows anyone within Capital One, technical, non-technical background, to really take on machine learning and dive into it. It doesn't matter your skill level, and it also doesn't matter the geography, which is really important to us. It's a really great way to bring our associates together to learn something new in a really fun way.
That's fantastic.
What are some of the outcomes that you can share from running DeepRacer workshops and racing events in terms of ML education and any impact that may have had on your own AI or ML strategy at Capital One?
Yeah, so tremendous impact across the company. We saw a number of outcomes. Obviously, our folks learned machine learning. But more importantly, one of the things that we saw was the community that it built. We saw developers connect with each other for the first time, learn what each other were doing, and really help each other problem solve and innovate based on what they were learning, utilizing DeepRacer.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Like that spirit of competition, like even internally, like I'm based in Mexico City, in the Mexico City office, people kept posting like their fastest times virtually up to the summit, and during the summit we were like all ribbing each other like, oh, you're doing way worse on the actual track than you were doing virtually. So it was really fun, and like we all kind of got into the mood of it.
Yeah, we actually, we had over 500 people on our Slack channel of our associates that were communicating with each other. I mean, sometimes at 1 a.m, because DeepRacer can be very addictive. So many times sharing their models with each other and how they were training their models to enable each other to get faster, even though they were competing against each other. So it was a really cool outcome to see that community come together all around.
That's awesome.
So I'm kind of curious, you told us a little bit about this awesome new feature, but can you tell us more about why you think more people should care about this? Why is this feature so important?
Okay, yes. DeepRacer is an easy tool to get hands-on with machine learning, and developers across the year have been able to master time trial, and they were asking for new challenges. And here we're really taking developers along the learning journey and enabling them to develop new skills, solve more complex challenges, and still maintain the fun and the competitive environment that made DeepRacer today.
So are we ready for a demo maybe?
Yeah, I think it's demo time, so fantastic.
So the demo I'm going to show today is to highlight some of the new features that Ava was just talking about. What I'm showing on my screen right now is what you'll see if you sign into the DeepRacer section of the AWS Management Console. So the couple features new features I'm going to highlight here. We'll start off with community races. So as Ava said earlier, community races is something our customers were asking for year-round. It's a way for you to create a race, your own personal race, and invite all of your community, so your friends or your colleagues or your team, to compete. And doing so is very easy. So from the community races section of the console here, you can just click Create Race, and there's a form for you to fill out. So you start by naming your event, and I'll call this one Launchpad Race. And for a description, I'll just say, join my first race. The next thing you do here is set a start and an end date for your race. And so I'll have this one start this coming Friday, and I'll have it run for a week. And you get to choose which track your competitors will be competing on. So for this one, I'll choose the 2019 DeepRacer Championship Cup track, which is what we're using here at reInvent this week for the competition. And there's a few other things you can select at the bottom. You can select an icon for your race, and then entry requirements and race evaluations. And this just defines what does it mean to be a valid submission to your race. For this one, I'm going to say competitors, they need to complete 2 consecutive laps. And this will tell you how many trials they get to do that. So I'll say they have 5 attempts to complete these 2 consecutive laps. When I click next here, it'll show kind of the completed race details that you filled in. And when you hit submit, it'll give you an invitation link. And this is a link that you can share with anybody that you want to join and compete inside your race. So I can copy that to the clipboard. And when I click done, you'll see the race shows up here in my managed races as opening soon. So that's one of the things we wanted to show. The second was a brand new section of the console here. So if you've used DeepRacer before, you've probably never seen the garage section. We just took it live earlier this week. And this is where you can customize your virtual cars in the same way that we've enhanced DeepRacer Evo with additional sensors. And so I have 2 cars in my account already. Before I get into building a new one, I just want to show kind of some of the content we've put in here to help customers understand what these sensors are for and how they've been used. So the front-facing camera is what we've had on the original DeepRacer vehicle all year. That's just one camera in the front of the car. The front-facing stereo camera is what we have on the Evo. So this is 2 cameras in the front of the car, and by putting these 2 cameras side by side, the car is able to determine how far in front of it objects are. And so this becomes really, really useful for object avoidance and for head-to-head racing as well. And then we have the LiDAR sensor, which is spinning on the back of the car. And this, like I said earlier, is a laser that shoots out. It helps get information about what's to the side of the car and what's behind the car, which is really useful for head-to-head racing. And then a little info on how reinforcement learning works. So I'll go ahead and build a new vehicle, and I'll build this one to match the DeepRacer Evo here. So I'll put a stereo camera on there, I'll put a LiDAR on there, and you'll see these sensors kind of show up in the console. It tells you where on the car they're going to be located. You can also choose what type of neural network you want to use. So we use CNNs, and we have a couple different depths of CNN. I'm going to go with the deeper network here, so that's the 5-layer CNN. And on this next page, you'll be able to customize your action space. So if you're an existing DeepRacer customer, you're probably familiar with this section. You can determine how many different steering actions and how many different speed actions the car can take. I'll leave this one set at the default. And finally, we get to name our car. So I'll call this one Launchpad Car. And you get to choose a color. So I'll make this one orange.
That's
Why not?
awesome.
Yeah.
Orange is pretty fun, right? So the last thing I'm going to show here is how you can start a training job with the car that we just created. So if I go here to the Create Model wizard, it's going to again ask me to name the model, and so I'll call this one Launchpad Model, and select the track I want to run on. So I'll select the DeepRacer Championship Cup track again. Now when I click Next, here's where the new race formats that Ava was talking about come into play. So we have 3. All year we've had just time trial. Now you can choose from time trial, object avoidance, and head-to-head racing, where head-to-head is another car on the track at the same time. So I'll choose object avoidance for this one. You'll get to select some parameters about how the objects are placed, as well as how many objects are on the track. I can say place 5 objects on the track. And finally, you can select which car you want to run. And so I'm going to select the Launchpad car I just created, because I think it's going to be very good at obstacle avoidance. And in this last section, you'll be able to enter your reward function. So for, again, for anybody that's used DeepRacer before, this is pretty familiar. It's a little snippet of Python code that you'll have to write that kind of gives the agent feedback on how well it's performing. And we've added a bunch of new parameters to the reward function this year to support the new racing formats. So here we have an example where you can see some of those new parameters in action if you're able to read this tiny code on here. Things like, where are the obstacles on either side of me? And you can build that into your reward. You can also say, specify the hyperparameters and the running time of your algorithm, and I'll click Create Model here to start it. Now, these models take a little bit of time to start up. So hoping for an opportunity to show you all what it looks like inside the simulator, I actually started the simulation job just a short while ago. So you'll be able to see, here's what you'll see while the car is actually running in the simulator. In this case, I have a head-to-head racing format. So I have additional cars on the track. You can see I just passed another car just then. And the point of all of this and the point of the new sensors again is to be able to navigate around these other obstacles. So if we get lucky here, you'll see the car just made a great pass. So that's it. Those are the new features I wanted to share.
That's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. What about you, Memo?
Yeah, so there's a few questions on Twitch from people that are wondering about the league itself. So I know tomorrow it's a grand finale for the league this year.
Yes.
And they're a little concerned because they're like, well, if I want to get into this, is it too late? And I assume next year we'll have a brand new league for everyone that wants to get started today.
Exactly. You can get started today. However, it is too late to be part of the finale tomorrow. We had the last summit race actually on Monday at the quad. But don't worry, you will have a chance to get started into the DeepRacer League starting next year. More opportunities to win, more opportunities to play. It's going to be fun.
3 new racing formats, so
Yeah,
a lot more
that's
challenges.
super exciting. Twitch is really excited about multi-car specifically. Just watching those, they think is going to be wild. I tend to agree. So I'm really excited to see that first multi-car race in person.
And people who are at reInvent can actually come to the MGM Grand Arena and check out time trial and head-to-head racing in demo or get hands-on with it.
Awesome. So they want to check you out and go talk to you. They should go to MGM Arena?
Yes, they can also come to the workshops. We have about 10 workshops, introductory workshops for DeepRacer, and 1 deep dive happening tomorrow at 2:30. So it will be a great way to actually make your own model.
Yeah,
train.
so if you're at reInvent, you have a bunch of opportunities to learn at whatever skill level you are today to get started with DeepRacer or to take it one level above, right?
Absolutely, and once you've trained your model after the workshop, you can show up with a USB stick and we'll load your model onto a car and you'll get to see how it feels to race your own model on the track.
That's fantastic. Well, we're almost out of time. Just want to make sure we didn't forget anything. Really wanted to thank you, Lisa from Capital One, for being here, for all your interest as a company on DeepRacer and everything that you're doing with your DeepRacer community.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for that awesome demo, Brian.
No problem.
All right. Well, it looks like we're pretty much out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching this awesome demo. And don't forget to go talk to the DeepRacer folks. Check out the workshops. Like she mentioned, there's over 10 workshops. There's a lot of places that you can go check this out. Thank you.
Come tomorrow.